What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average American Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Tate. This is the podcast for the average American by the average American. And today I'm just coming with something I watched the other day myself on my social media feed. It was Penguinz. If you don't know him, go check him out. He's on YouTube. I mean, he's a big gaming guy, talks about political stuff, super long hair. Looks like he would belong in some kind of alternative band. Anyway, he was talking about this. I don't remember the name of their group, but it's a Australian group. They're Christian conservatives. Um, Controlled shout, maybe something like that. But it's really not the point. Is who they are specifically as much as what they're trying to do. They got and I think this happened a few months ago. If I remember, the comment tags were like 10 weeks or something. But I thought it was super important. Um, the They got games banned on a couple different platforms by putting pressure on the payment processors, who then put pressure on the people platforming the game for purchase, and basically got them to take it down because it had, rape and incest content in it, or was what the game was about. That much I'm not 100% sure, but realistically, I get it. Most people would hear that and they would say, like, well, it makes sense. Why would anyone care about rape and incest content getting taken down? And generally, I would agree, like, that's not something, that's really, I mean, the demographic who gets into that is people you don't want to affiliate with and people you don't really want to be a part of the society that we're trying to build here. Um, but it is important because it's a beginning point. It's the same thing as I said in my first video with the Charlie Kirk stuff, where Pam Bondi is saying hate speech. You got people saying hate speech, and they're talking about trying to censor stuff. Well, this is the same thing. This is a form of censorship. This is, um, you know, these people taking an opportunity to put pressure on someone with financial incentives, same way that lobbyists do, or politicians, or anything like that, and force them to bend to the will of this group. And you know, it's concerning to see them adhere to it. Um, what was it called? Ichigo or Ichito? One of those platforms, smaller, I think. But they did, remove all of that content. And as I'm sitting there listening to him kind of explain it, it seems very concerning to me, because like, it's such a slippery slope. And then they're pushing um, to try to ban adult content of any kind. And what constitutes adult content? I mean, is it violence? Is it murder? Is it sex? I mean, what are we talking about? What constitutes adult content? Um, because some of the greatest games of all time that have ever been made were adult content. I'm a very avid gamer, play a lot of story games and things like that. So for me, you know, it's a big concern to see that. I mean, they're talking about attacking. It's different when you're saying like, oh, this political thing or this social thing or whatever. Video games are an escape, same way movies are. And I'm sure some of you have seen videos of people complaining about movies now, which I think is a fair assessment. And then it's like every time you turn it on, it's gotta have some kind of gay subplot or something like that. Which, listen, I don't care. I don't care if the show's good. The show's good. I don't care that dudes are kissing her or whatever. That don't really fucking bother me. I don't want to watch it, and I might skip it. But ultimately, it's not like this end of the fucking show kind of thing for me. But it does, seem to be um, a problem, and I don't like the idea of limiting creativity. I think that, when it comes to capitalism and free market and stuff like that, you should be allowed to create whatever you want. But a lot of people are shitting on Naughty Dog's new game that they're supposed to come out with after they did that release, and it's she looks like fucking Jack from Mass Effect 2 or some shit. There's a bald headed, she's supposed to be badass, she got like a laser sword or some shit. And, I don't care. I might play the game just because I don't give a fuck if it's a female protagonist or not. I don't see how that really bears too much relevance as long as the story's solid. Um, but for me personally, I don't want, I don't want any like LGBTQ kind of shit when I play a game. But at the same time, if you want to make that kind of game, you should have the right. If you want to make that kind of show, you should have the right. The same way that if you want to make a Christian conservative show or game or music or whatever type of art or media, it should be well within your rights to do so. And no one should be able to eliminate that possibility from you. And so, it's different, like I said, to see it in politics, and then you come here and you see it happening in the gaming world. And a lot of people will say, well, it's the left, it's Democrats, stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, they want to limit speech. They don't want to talk to you if you don't agree with them. Wild concept. Trust me, I'm fully on board with them being off their fucking rockers. But we're talking about a Christian conservative group that is trying to limit what you can experience in games, whether or not it's appropriate content is irrelevant. It's the same thing as trying to say, like, we are going to get rid of hate speech. We're going to do this, that, or the other. You can't do that. You cannot censor people in the marketplace of ideas, where their liberties lie, such as, speech, congregation, art, passions, things like that. I mean, once you start, it's such a slippery slope. I mean, we've already seen it, you know, and it just feels like there's nowhere we can get away from this shit. It really isn't. Like, video games have to be politicized. Everything has to be politicized. It's like, Jesus, dude. Can we have something that's not that way? And I'm someone who makes videos about, politics and makes content surrounding it. But I play video games to get away from that shit. Now, don't get me wrong. There's people that create games with undertones, and they always said Star Wars was about that kind of undertone and shit like that. But regardless, if you like the media, you like the media. And sometimes the political narrative that falls under it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really bother you. And if it does, then it's not for you. And that's okay. And I think that's the part that everybody's getting away from. Well, no matter what side of this coin you sit on. And I stand staunchly on the fact that one side is as equal to the other, and both that once one does something, the other one will follow. Um, you know, and that I think is the biggest issue is though you have one, once one person bows or bends the knee, so to speak, if you want a Game of Thrones fan, um, you know, then we're looking at someone else is going to follow suit. And the more influence they have, the more people they'll get to bend the knee. And, they tried to go after GTA and some other stuff. They're not going to get those guys, probably. Rockstar's just too big. But they can get smaller developers for sure, especially people who need that access to be platformed and shit. They could force them in. And so you'd get indie games with less creativity, which is what we all like about indie games, is that they're the ones who take the chances now. The big AAA games, they don't take chances that much anymore. They really just kind of do what movies do, and they push out the thing that gives people um, the most assured content that they like or they know or are familiar with, so that they'll. And with video games, it's a little different. You usually go by developer. Like, if you find a developer you really like, oh, they've made like several games I really like. Ghost of Yotei with its controversy that's been going on is still experiencing a lot of success. And I think there is something to be said that there's a bunch of people out there who just want to hate on something, that contrarianist view, like, oh, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't exactly what I thought it should be. Fuck that. I'm not going to buy it. Oh, one of the devs said something that I don't like. Fuck that. I'm not going to buy it. Whatever. Fuck them. Their political views don't, hopefully impact the game or create something. Now, we saw that with Dragon Age and shit like that. I mean, from what I understand, it only had like one or two of those trans scenes and that character trying to be non-binary or whatever the fuck it was. But the reality is people don't want that. A large portion of people don't want that shit. And if you want to make a game like that, you should do an indie game or a small game that's small budget, doesn't require a lot. And sometimes you can create something cool with that people don't give a shit about. But the reality is most of us don't want that shit in the media we consume. Um, I don't know. When you shove shit at people, they tend to not want to fuck with it. You got to let people come to shit on their own. And some people will come to it and be like, oh, this makes sense, or I don't care. It's a good show, or this is a good game. But, when you shove these things at people, then you get these controlled shout groups who are going to shove right back, and they're going to do it just as aggressively in the opposite direction. And I saw comments about people worried about the silencing of queer people and all that stuff. But the thing that they miss is that they've been trying to silence Christians, conservatives, these other ideals. And it's like, as a libertarian, I believe that both sides have the right to pursue whatever makes them happy. But what I don't think is that I should have to fucking be involved. Okay, you have your group, they have their group. You know, when it comes to policy, that shouldn't be like, though, that kind of policy stuff should not be important when it comes to the American people. And it's unfortunate because when it does, like Dave Smith, great guy, part of the Problem Podcast, check it out. He's fantastic. But yeah, he has pointed out that when you're losing on policy, you pivot to a culture war. And unfortunately, pivoting to the culture war has now infected everything. And that's the part where it gets frustrating for me and I think a lot of other people. It's like, dude, I consume enough political content on my own. I do it all day long. I listen to podcasts and shit like that. It's like I come home and I play video games. I don't want to fucking see that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't need political undertones in everything I fucking do. I'm already involved enough. I make these fucking videos. I vote. I do all that shit. When I'm trying to fucking shoot somebody's head off, I don't need to find out that they were gay and their family's full of queers. I don't care. Still gonna shoot them. Still gonna shoot them in the game. Like that's not gonna, whether or not their character is well developed and worth keeping is what matters. Um, and so it's just, I don't know. There's a little too much of this politicization. I don't fucking know how to pronounce it, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's one of those things where um you can't escape it, and that's when it really starts to just feel way too overwhelming, and that's when you seek out abilities to get away from it, and people really turn off from it. And I don't blame them because it's all gloom and doom most of the time, and they're bad, they're bad. No side's right. No one can make a fucking agreement on anything. But I think we can all agree that, like, if I sit down to watch a movie, I don't need the fucking political undertones about who I am and how I'm making poor choices because I'm not fucking out there rioting for the gays or whatever the fuck you want me to push. Like, we could all agree that we don't need that. The same way that I don't want to sit here and watch a show that's directly about a gay character. Like, gay people don't want, straight content pushed on them or whatever. And everybody has their right to feel that way. But realistically, we should all seek out content that we relate to and shouldn't be forced to see content we don't care about. And unfortunately, that's the algorithm. Um, and that's just the way it works. And until we stop buying into the rage bait, they're going to keep doing that shit. They say all publicity is, there's no such thing as bad publicity. All publicity is good publicity, which isn't necessarily true, especially in the gaming industry. But I would definitely be willing to hear some people's thoughts. I mean, how do you feel about stuff like that? Should we ban content in it? I mean, obviously, you know where I stand, but I'd be curious to hear how other people feel. Go ahead and leave, comments, concerns, questions, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys later.